Pork is one of the most popular and highly consumed meats around the world. The majority of the pork consumed today is produced in concentrated animal feeding operations, known as CAFOs, which allow industrial farms to deliver a very affordable pork product. But what is the real cost of this style of farming? Research suggests small-scale farm-grown pork is healthier than pork grown on CAFOs because animals raised on small-scale farms do not need antibiotics to stay healthy and gain weight, and their manure can be safely managed and composted. First, I'd like to talk to you about pork raised in factory farms being given antibiotics to maintain health and increase growth rates, while small-scale farm pork is not. Next, I'd like to draw your attention to small-scale pork farms safely being able to manage their manure that they produce, and large-scale CAFO farm operations not being able to. To start, let's look at pork raised in factory farms being given antibiotics to maintain health and increase growth rates, while small-scale farm pork is not. The Environmental Protection Agency in 2008 defined swine raised in large concentrated animal feeding operations, or CAFOs, as being confined to small areas without exposure to crops, vegetation, outdoor air, or sunlight for at least 45 days in a 12-month period. To combat the high rate of infections and illnesses that CAFO-raised animals exhibit due to these cramped quarters and lack of air, light, and fresh forage, industrial farms preemptively administer antibiotics to the swine to ensure good growth rates and health, according to Shocker in 2015. I'd like to draw your attention to this visual. You can see this is from Self magazine in 2012. Factory farms are breeding grounds for bacteria, with thousands of animals living in crowded and unsanitary conditions. Producers use antibiotics to prevent, control, and treat disease and to fatten up their animals quickly. The drugs kill off weak but leave the strongest bacteria, creating superbugs. These resistant superbugs travel out of the farm by farm workers and the animals we eat, and when manure gets into the air and soil, and the result can be serious, life-threatening infections that can be very hard to treat and no longer be killed by antibiotics. Small-scale farms do not need to resort to antibiotic usage because they utilize rotational grazing practices in paddocks, providing exercise, sunlight, and fresh pasture or green feed, which the CAFO animals lack, according to Morrison, 1950. Next, I'd like to talk to you about small-scale pork farms safely managing their manure that they produce, and large-scale CAFO farms not safely managing their manure. Fost, in 2000, showed that large-scale CAFO farms must store the massive amount of manure they produce in anaerobic lagoons, which are a waste treatment plant, and then pump the liquefied manure on areas known as spray fields. Marks, in 2001, pointed out that large-scale CAFO farm lagoons and spray fields threaten the water quality and the groundwater supply and threaten aquatic life. Marks also points out in 2001 that small-scale pork farms utilize rotational grazing and deep bedding composting to manage manure buildup and prevent the pollution runoff that large-scale CAFO farms have. In conclusion, I'd like to say that small-scale farm-grown pork is much healthier than pork raised in factory farms because animals raised on small-scale farms do not require antibiotics to stay healthy and gain weight, and their manure can be safely managed and composted. The pork raised in factory farms, I showed, is given antibiotics to maintain health and increase growth rates, while small-scale farm pork is not given antibiotics. And then we talked about small-scale pork farms being able to safely manage their manure that they produce, and large-scale CAFO farms not being able to. In closing, I'd like to say that the low cost of CAFO-grown pork in the grocery store is not worth the high dangers that it presents to our public and environmental health. Try to support a local small pork farmer and make a difference.